What's up, babes, beauties, baddies? Welcome back to our channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a classic Puerto Rican dish. It's relleno de papa. I know it may seem a little intimidating at first, especially if you haven't made it before, but I promise you that this is a very easy recipe to make. You really don't need that many ingredients, which is nice. I'm going to show you guys how I do this at home. So if you're interested in watching, then of course just stay tuned for some delicious food coming up. Basically what relleno de papa is it's a mashed potato ball that's stuffed with meat and fried. That's really all it is. So you don't need that much for it. Of course, you do need potatoes. I like red potatoes, so I've got 2 bags of those. And you're also going to mix in with the mashed potatoes cornstarch. That is going to change the texture a little bit and make it better for frying. So it's gonna taste better and the texture is gonna change a little bit when we mix cornstarch in with the mashed potatoes. So you wanna make sure that you have some of this. Typically, people like to stuff the mashed potatoes with ground beef, so that's what I'm using today. If it were up to me and if I were making this just for myself, I would use my vegetarian Beyond Beef meat. But I'm not making this just for me, I'm making this for everyone in the house, and they don't want vegetarian meat, they want real meat, so that's what I'm going to be using today. Lastly, you just need some seasonings to season the meat with. So you want to grab your sofrito, you want to grab your sazon Goya, and I'm also going to be using maybe 1 or 2 of these Maggi cubes, and it's the chicken one. I'm going to be adding salt, pepper, garlic powder, all that stuff. But I'll show you guys exactly how I season it when I get to the meat. What I'm going to start by doing is peeling the potatoes. I'm going to peel the potatoes, cut them up, and put them to boil. While they're boiling and cooking, I'm going to get started on the meat. I want to get the potatoes started so that by the time I'm done with the meat, the potatoes will also be done, and I'll be able to mash them up and get started on actually putting the relleno de papas together. Although I do like cooking, I prefer to spend as little time doing this as possible, just so you know you can get to other stuff in your day. So don't waste any time, while you're doing one thing, something else could be heating up, boiling, cooking. So really try to be strategic about how you work and what you do first. I'm not exactly sure how many potatoes I'm going to be using. I'll probably end up using a whole bag just because I am cooking for 4 people. It's better to have a little extra, and you can always save some for later or use the mashed potatoes for something else versus not having enough. The potatoes are boiling. The next thing for us to do is move on to seasoning our meat. Like I said before, my preference would be to use my vegetarian meat. Since I'm cooking for other people, I'm going to be using actual meat today. I'm going to put it into this clean olla, and I'm going to season it here so that I can kind of talk you through exactly how I'm seasoning it. So what you want to start with is your sofrito here. Definitely make sure that you are using a clean utensil that has not touched the meat, because you're going to be scooping it into your seasoning here and you don't want to contaminate it. So make sure that you're using a clean utensil. I'm thinking I'm going to do maybe 3 spoons of this. Maybe even a little more than 3 spoons, just because I like my food heavily seasoned. Next thing that you want to do is grab your chicken powder. And again, that was the Maggi brand. So I just used 1 of these little cubes, as you guys saw. And I'm going to take 2 packs of the sazon Goya. It doesn't matter if it's the red one or the colorless one. I'm using the red one. Beef is already red anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but I'll put some black pepper in there. I also like my food to have a little bit of a kick, so as you saw, I use a decent amount of black pepper, and I do use some minced onion. If you don't have minced onion, you can do onion powder. Either is fine. Just a couple more ingredients here. I'm going to be using some garlic and some parsley. If you want to do oregano, you can do oregano. Just keep in mind that oregano has a stronger taste than parsley does. You can do dried cilantro, so any of the 3 or a combination of the 3, which I'll probably do actually. Here's my cilantro leaves and my oregano. I'm going to do a little of both. Alright, so everything looks like this on the stovetop. Once the meat starts to cook a little bit, if I feel like it needs a little more salt, then I'll just use some adobo to salty it up a little bit. but I'm not going to use actual salt. I'd much rather prefer to use a seasoned kind of salt than just plain salt, you know? So let's make our way over to the stove and take a look. So I just mixed all of the seasonings in. I broke up the meat a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover it so that all of the steam can stay trapped inside of this pot here, so that the meat can cook thoroughly and so that all the flavors can kind of stay trapped inside of this little pot. Again, just checking periodically, maybe every 3 to 4 minutes or so. You can give everything a stir just to make sure that everything is being cooked thoroughly. And of course, once it's done, you can remove it from the heat. You'll be able to tell when the potatoes are done when you can stick a fork through them easily and they break apart and you're able to totally penetrate the potato with a fork. I am able to do that, so my potatoes are done. Next step is to mash these up. You want to start by adding a very small amount of butter. We're already going to be frying this, so you don't need to add any unnecessary oils and butters. Just enough to make it a little easier to blend. We are, of course, going to be using cornmeal. This is so that when we fry the mashed potatoes, they do not fall apart, and it's almost making our mashed potatoes somewhat of a batter. So it's just going to improve the texture for frying. You can go in with some annatto or achote. This is for color. If you want, you can do a little bit of this to make the mashed potatoes more of a red color, so that way when you fry it, the outside of your relleno is going to look like an orangey kind of color. It's not just going to be white like a potato. So if that's something you want to do, you can use this. This is an option. Small amount of salt or adobo and some pepper. So don't put any milk in this. Don't put any of your cheeses in this. That's not what we're doing. That's not the ingredients that we're going to be using. That's not the taste we're going for. This is almost like a batter. I don't have any exact measurements for you. It really just depends on how many potatoes you have. My rule of thumb would be to start off light and then slowly add more as we progress. Okay, so I think that's good for now. Not too much cornmeal. Really, you just want enough so that the texture changes a little bit. Once the texture changes, you're good. You don't need to add any more. Alright guys, so meat done. Mashed potato slash masa done. Now the only thing for us to do is make sure your hands are clean, of course, because we're going to start to make the balls, the relleno de papas. You're going to need a clean bowl. You are also going to need some flour and a little more of that cornmeal. Pour a little of each into the bowl. We don't need too much of either. We already put cornmeal into the mashed potatoes here, so we're not going to coat the balls with a super thick coating of what we're about to coat. But we do want somewhat of a coating just so that we can have a little bit of a crunch on the outside of our rellenos. Also, I don't know if I showed this on camera. I don't think I did. I did add an egg into the potato here. So definitely you want to make sure that you're adding egg. All right, so again, a little bit of cornmeal, a little bit of flour into a bowl. And if you'd like, you can also add a little bit of salt here as well. So of course, make sure that your hands are freshly washed and cleaned. You do want to start by taking some of this powder that we just put together and coating your hands, because otherwise the mashed potato is going to stick to your skin. So do that. Grab some here. And what you want to do is you want to kind of shape it into the form of a ball, but make a little divot in the center like this so that you can stuff. Close it up. And then here's what I mean about lightly coating it with some of that flour. Don't need a lot. And boom, here's one. Okay guys, unfortunately I couldn't catch myself actually frying these on camera because my phone died. But it's pretty easy to do, pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure you guys know how to fry things. Of course, if you have a deep fryer, that'd be preferable, but if not, just be really careful when you pull them out of the oil so that they don't break apart. But otherwise, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just pop them in the hot oil until they're nice and crispy and golden brown on the outside. It's not really about cooking because all the ingredients are already cooked. The meat is cooked, the mashed potatoes are done. It's just about kind of giving them a quick fry so that it can be nice and crispy and crunchy on the outside. But that's pretty much it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, of course. And stay tuned for our next video. Bye guys. Good luck.